another episode of Business Bites. I'm Tonya Fentress, your host, the business development consultant here at the Slover's Hendrix Business Center. Today, we're highlighting a prominent community partner of the Business Center, Julius Hayes. Julius is a licensed Class A contractor who built his business, Pride Home Exteriors, after years of navigating the challenges, opportunities, and ever-evolving landscape of construction here in Hampton Roads. We'll be talking about what that really looks like, the common hurdles contractors face, and the power of networking in the industry, and advice for anyone who's looking to get started. Welcome, Julius, fondly known as Caesar.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. As always, I mean, working with you is like working with family. So I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Good. I know that you are a busy guy. This is building season. Yes, so I appreciate your time. So for our listeners who may not be familiar with you, can you share what it really means to be a Class A contractor and what types of projects you typically handle?
Sure. What it means in the state of Virginia to be a Class A contractor is that you've basically gone through all of the hurdles of getting the licensing, and you meet all the requirements that all the minimum requirements that they put upon you to be able to take on projects of a certain amount of money. So ultimately, that's about a project that would be in excess of $1 million or more. So we've certainly qualified for that, and we've been doing it for a while. We're also licensed commercial and residential, so that's a big plus for us.
That is a lot when you talk about the different licensing that you have to have for the state of Virginia. What was your first license, and how did it get you into the contractor's world?
Okay, that's a good question, because when I first started doing this, I had no intentions on doing it, right?
Okay.
I came from a very different background. But I used to own a bunch of rental properties, and I used to have to call people to come fix stuff, do these different things. I got kind of tired of doing that and wanted to do things myself. So I learned a lot of the different trades, primarily heating and AC. I actually own a heating and AC company to this day. But so through all of that, the project started getting bigger, and I started to understand that we had to have a certain license to be able to perform that work and get permits and do it all on the books the way it should be done.
Okay.
So we started out with a Class C license, which is a general license is fairly easy to attain. At that time it was anyway. So, and then from there we just kept moving up, and we got our Class B and Class A finally. And so again, the process has changed quite a bit since we originally got licensed. Now they do offer a lot of resources for people to be able to take the classes online, or in person.
Because you've been doing it how long?
So I've been in the construction business now since 2005.
Okay.
Again, back then was before the real estate bubble burst and everything went crazy. It was real estate was doing really well, and that's why I started to delve into it. But then, of course, the market crashed, and we had a really rough time, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about later.
Yeah.
So we just kept on moving forward and attaining properties and building up our repertoire of skilled trades that we could do and perform in the houses. So I didn't always have to pay somebody else to do it,
Right, yeah. And really knowing and being a expert and being a student, even after you have learned it and mastered it, you also know how to source people who can master it as well. What does a day in a life actually look like for you? When you get up in the morning, what is typically people drive to their job and come, but I know with dealing with so many different municipalities, what does a day in a life look for you?
Well, it's generally pretty well planned and orchestrated for the most part. This is a fast-paced business, and so things change on a dime. But I generally try to plan my day out. So first thing I like to do is touch base with all the subcontractors to make sure that they are off onto the jobs that I've assigned them to.
Okay.
And understanding that they may need materials, so we want to make sure the materials are in place for them. So that I spend a fairly decent amount of my time in the morning planning and preparing for that, so that they can have a full day's work.
Your strategy is to plan and orchestrate
Sure,
it.
sure, absolutely.
Direct it, if
It's,
you will.
It's key. It's key, because without it, a lot of times the people, they're left up to their own devices, and they don't see the picture the way you do. Ultimately, I have to get the house built because that's when I make my money.
Absolutely.
They get paid along the way, so they're not generally in a major rush. Without me lighting a little fire under them. So yeah. So.
Understood, and that lends to an interesting question about you get paid at the end of the job,
Sure.
And so therefore there's a timeline.
Absolutely.
And project management again is so essential in your line of work, and that has a lot to do with being a business owner, with being definitely skilled in the art of making sure everything goes according to plan and sticking to that plan. And we contend with a lot of things in our area, especially in the Hampton Roads area with the weather.
Sure.
And I know that, like you said, if you left it to people on a day like today of this recording, today is early May, but we're experiencing summer already. So
Absolutely.
The earlier they get it started, the more that they're not out there in the heat and that sort of thing. Do you take those kind of things into account seasonally as to how you pick your projects?
I do, but generally for me, because this is my only business.
Okay.
I tend to look at it holistically. For the whole year, I have to continue doing projects, whether it's winter, spring, summer, fall.
Okay.
But you're correct. The summertime, it ramps up. So we start to plan earlier in the year for the summertime to make sure that our projects have already been permitted and that they're ready to go, and all of our subcontractors. Because one thing that's important to me are the people that work with me. All the subcontractors that I've used have been working with me for years, and if you don't keep them busy, they're going to move on to other projects. Right?
Okay.
So it's always key for me to have projects in different phases of construction, so that we're constantly moving and we constantly have these guys in play. They're very important to the success of any project. And of course, my job is to maintain that construction schedule. So I'll constantly drive it from my end when we bring in our framers, when we bring in our drywall guys, and I plan that out as best as possible, according to their schedules as well, because they don't only just work for me.
Gotcha.
I have to take that into consideration as well. So,
So
so planning is a key part of the success of these projects.
It is.
Yeah.
So speaking about projects, what's your best project to date that you've ever done? And tell me a little bit about why.
So the best project I've done to date would have to be an apartment complex that I did in Newport News. The building consisted of 60 apartments, and we completely renovated the entire building. The building had been sitting vacant for quite some time when the investor who I worked with on the project bought it. He called me in to take a look at the project and to see. Actually, there's another project too I got to tell you about. But this one stood out to me because it was the first one that I had done of that magnitude. And to be perfectly honest with you, I wasn't sure of myself at the time if I could actually handle it. But I put that aside quickly because I knew that it could be a game changer for me. So we studied the project. For a couple of months to make sure that we covered all of our bases, crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's, and we moved forward with it. So we completely renovated this entire building, gutted it out completely, drywall, all of the wiring, plumbing, everything came out of it. We reframed the interior apartments, and then we installed all of the trades back in. And when we finished it, it was an absolutely beautiful building. I mean,
60 units is huge in an area that housing, affordable housing too, is needed, and people are always very, very mindful of when they go into somewhere that they're going to call home, that everything is done to par. And that sounds like a great experience too, early on, I guess, in your earlier part of, like you said, you weren't sure of yourself then,
Sure.
but put it all to the side and just have it all so that the chess pieces kind of aligned, or everything just dominoes, so that all of these people in place. Because I'm sure building multiplexes or even renovating multiplexes is a lot more complicated than a single family home or even a
Absolutely.
duplex. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. What was the other one? You said you had another one that might be.
Yeah, there was another one here in Norfolk. It used to be the old social services building off of, I think it's Plume and Bramilton.
Okay.
And it's now called 220 West.
Okay.
There's a large developer, I won't mention his name, but he's done a lot in the city of Norfolk. And he called in a friend of mine at the time to come in and complete a project that had been started by a previous contractor some years prior to that. But in taking that on, dollar-wise, that project was huge for us,
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so again, it was one of those things where you really have to just make sure that you are in line and prepared to take on a project like that, because you're signing your name to a lot of documents to say that you can perform this work, and you better be able to do it. So, but by then, I was much more confident in myself, and I knew that we could complete this project. Today, it was 19 luxury apartments. Now,
Nice.
if you imagine 19 compared to 60 is a big difference, and some people would say, well, it was only 19, but the dollar value of this
Yes.
real estate was
Especially
enormous.
right here in downtown Norfolk.
Downtown Norfolk, exactly.
Right, it's going to go for more than, so much more than, even on the outskirts of Norfolk, because
Absolutely.
downtown within the last 10 years has just exploded in growth, where people want to live down
Sure.
here because people want to walk to where they want to. I like that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
For always when it's the best. What was your least favorite project that you kind of had to push through?
Oh, yeah. Well, honestly, that would be any, house renovation project. Right?
Okay.
Because I've gotten spoiled to new construction.
Understood.
And to be transparent, I just recently finished a renovation project in Portsmouth, and it reminded me why I don't like doing them anymore.
Gotcha. Okay.
But a challenge is always accepted by me. Of course,
Right.
I'm not going to shy away from it. But it did remind me of certain things that I like to talk to people about. When we're having our meetings about people learning how to do this business and do it the right way. It did remind me that when you take on renovation projects, there's so much more that you have to pay attention to, because the house is already built. And, if you don't pay attention to certain things like the crawl space and the attic, those things can come back and bite you in the end. And I got bit. I got bit a little bit. Even an experienced contractor like me, I didn't pay attention to the crawl space, and there were certain things in there that needed to be repaired. And, of course, you find those things out on the tail end when you get your home inspection, right? And I'm thinking I'm done. The house is all beautiful on the inside. Everything looks great. It's going on the market, and this guy hits me with some items that we needed to take care of. But being professional, you go in, you get it done, and move on. So I guess to answer the question, there's not one project I think that was probably the worst. Just in general, when you're taking on renovation projects, they can be very tasking. And take a lot of time if you don't pay attention to certain things. So,
yeah, because here at the Slover, we have the Sergeant Memorial collection that has the blueprints for just about every building, especially historical building
Sure.
within the city of Norfolk and or home that was built. So I'm sure taking on renovation projects even of that caliber is like, whoa,
Yeah.
how to keep the integrity of it, or even pleasing your investor about what they want to keep and what you're able to do within the scope.
Sure.
And that's where the it swings the pendulum from, do I do renovation or do I do new construction? And you've done all the renovations and now you're loving new construction.
Right.
So being in new construction requires a lot of technical skill and business management. What are some of your tips for those who are looking to jump into the new construction when they've come out of the renovation part? Because that's what I see most people do, and what most lay people see people do is flip homes.
Right.
They take it and renovate it, and so that's why your world was so much more intriguing to me. Like, wow, I didn't know that was a part of real estate,
Sure.
that whole development aspect. So what do people need who have built their skill set, if you will, just a tad? What is the next step into moving into the development phase?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and one that I just recently had a conversation with someone about just yesterday. They are in that cycle. They've done nothing but renovations.
Okay.
They found their first property that they want to build a new construction home on, and they called me. And the very first thing that I talked to them about is due diligence, right? Because, without it, you could purchase a piece of land that you can't ever do anything with. There's someone out there stuck with a piece of land that they can never build on, and they're going to try to sell it to somebody as easily as they can to get out from underneath it.
Gotcha.
And you don't want to be that person, right? So it's always important to make sure you do your due diligence. If you see a piece of land that you're interested in, take the time, ask the questions, go down to the local municipality, to the zoning department, and make sure that the property meets the minimum requirements to be able to build a house on it. Check for utilities, make sure that it has water and sewer. Do your comps in the neighborhood to see what the houses that you're potentially thinking about building would sell for. All of those things are really important up front. Before you even get into the actual development phase of it, these are the things that you have to pay attention to up front.
Gotcha.
And generally, a lot of people that renovate houses, that's not something that they have to really be concerned with if you can build a house on it, because there's already a house there, So they may tend to skip that part.
Okay.
And so, so that would be the first step, to make sure that you do your due diligence and that the property that you're considering purchasing is a good property to build a house on it,
Gotcha.
And then we can go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood that.
Sure.
And that person, nice segue into my next question about that person reached out to you. Networking plays such a major role in the world of business, but particularly in contracting, because I found that world to be very people oriented and people secluded too. Can you talk about building relationships that have contributed to Proud Home Exterior success?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love talking about that because it means so much to me. In particular, first, I always have to give a shout out to my subcontractors, right? Building those relationships with those guys has been great in the way of us reaching success in the business, but I've made some really good friends from this also. People that I can hang out with, that can come by for a cookout or whatever, right?
Gotcha.
And we've established these relationships over the years, and it works really well, because they know what I expect, I know what they expect, and it allows me to be able to scale, right? Now I can scale up because these guys take care of the things that I don't have to worry about anymore, They're very good at
that trust factor.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. So building those relationships with subcontractors has been key for me. Outside of that, the relationships with the municipalities, right? Each city operates independently here locally in Virginia. So from Norfolk to Virginia Beach to Portsmouth, every one of them accepts their documents differently. Every one of them requires certain things differently. So it's always been a great relationship for me with certain people that key people that work at the municipalities to be able to submit documents to them. They can tell me if something's missing. I can get it right back to them. Some people I can text at 7 o'clock in the evening and say, hey, look, I forgot to schedule my inspection. Can you set it up for me? And they'll do that because I've built a relationship with them.
Absolutely.
So all those things help out.
Relationships are so very important in this business and in any business. But what what really sparked my interest about, you said how all the municipalities work different. And that's something that I'm sure you share with the person who's going to be going into new construction,
Sure.
or even someone who's thinking about renovating, about showing up for those people who work in these spaces. And generally within the municipalities, people work there for years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of rather, a simple process that most people, and I talked about it yesterday kind of loosely, that Sunday, most people take for granted about that showing up for someone, something, or that reciprocity. So building relationships are so very important. And because when you started, we didn't have all of this social media and brand marketing that we do now. So now we have social media and some brand marketing. And I'll tell this short version of, I saw you on Instagram sharing how you would want to help people in the real estate business. And I immediately DM'd you and say, we can turn this into a series right here at the Hendrix Business Center.
Yeah.
But tell me how your branding and your marketing has really helped Pride Home Exterior scale.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, it's been priceless, really. I never really considered it early on, just because I wasn't really on social media like that. But I think, I like to think that, I have a personality of a people person. I like to talk to people. I like to be around people. And, and one of the things that kind of really pushed me over the edge was my early experiences in real estate, right? And I started seeing people kind of, having some of the same experiences where they would lose money, they would hire the wrong contractor, all these different things. And I wanted to be able to talk to them. I wanted to be able to, show them where those pitfalls and potholes are in the road so that they didn't have to go through the things that I did earlier on.
Extending the olive branch.
Yeah. I mean, it was important, but I didn't really know how to do that other than, just talking to people in general conversation out on the job site or wherever I might be. I think through, looking deeper into social media and, the possibility of branding what we're doing to help people became very, very vital to me, because I can reach more people now.
Right.
And we can really have transparent, open discussions about this, and people can get an honest, no crap, idea of what it takes to do this. I didn't want, people go into this with this dream of HGTV type projects.
Right, yeah.
And it just
That's
doesn't work like that.
It's a good analogy because, again, it's any type of media sensationalizes it. So, branding is a legitimate part of any type of business, and branding and marketing has to be a part. So I'm glad that you're helping people in that space. And what are some of the other business acumen that you share with those who are willing to listen to you in the real estate and development space?
Well, I think really one of the things that I really try to push upon people and impress upon people, I should say, is that set your company up the right way from the beginning. The infrastructure of the company needs to be on solid footing, right? Because if not, what happens is people tend to not take care of the important things in the back office that need to be done.
Okay.
Going out and renovating a house and making it look nice and all that is great if that's all you want from it. But if it's going to be a business, a sustainable business, make sure that you
keyword
sustainable business. Make sure that you have it set on a solid footing. And that means hiring an attorney, hiring a CPA, an assistant. These people are vital to helping you move the company forward and to be able to be in a position to scale whenever you're ready for it. But I always advise people to manage their growth, right?
Okay.
Like you said, you used the word sensationalize. People tend to look at this stuff on social
they see
media.
those beautiful homes you build at the end when you do the videos, but they don't know all of the steps it took to get to this beautiful home, and don't know that legitimate contracting business memorandums of understanding and or an attorney sitting in when we're going to talk about doing business together
Sure.
is so vital that everybody knows, oh, you got an attorney here? Yeah, this is real business. We
Yeah.
want to make sure everybody walks away from the table with what
Absolutely.
we said that we were going to walk away from the table. Having a banker, having a CPA, and just financial planners overall. Finally, what's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you when you started?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say to manage your expectations, right, of people, because unfortunately you tend to expect people to operate the way that you do, right? And I found out the hard way that just doesn't happen.
Right.
Manage your expectations of people, and you have to give people what you want from them. Too many times I see people that will ask for and want certain things from you that they're not willing to give you, right? And that happens in business. I don't mean just personal relationships, in business, right?
Right.
And you have to make people accountable, and so I wish people had talked to me about that kind of stuff earlier on, because I think I made some mistakes in the beginning, expecting people to operate above board the way that I do.
It's those interpersonal skills that often people that I've noticed being in this space of being in entrepreneurship, now that I know those people so much more intimately, because I was raised in corporate America. We learned soft skills and interpersonal and emotional intelligence, regulating relationships and that sort of stuff. And most people tend to not have that.
Right.
And then when you attempt to share that with some accept it and some just, oh, I got it. And it's like, that's not the whole point. The point is developing relationships means so much more than just the surface, we're going to do business together.
Sure.
It means that when something is in your wheelhouse and I see it, I share it with you.
Yeah.
Because it's more beneficial to you at the moment than it is to me. Like you said, someone in that you're assisting in their new journey.
Sure.
Why not share the subcontractors if they have wiggle room? Because subcontractors are always going to be bringing on other subcontractors, and that generational process continues
Sure.
to flow with plumbers, with electricians, with framers.
Absolutely.
That world seems to be something that they tend to pass on generationally.
Yeah.
So again, just building that relationship pool, if you will. I say so often people have to understand that networking is so much more about building relationships and being able to have people that will answer your text at 7 o'clock at night, as you alluded to earlier, and or returning your call within the business day with either a yes or no. And don't be upset if it's a no,
Sure.
because of who it comes from.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
I thank you so much for sharing your insight with us, Julius, and to our listeners. I hope that they found something special from it. Julius is our premier community partner here at the Hendrix Business Center. The next time we have an event, come introduce yourself, network with his team. Don't forget, you can always schedule a one-on-one here at the Hendrix Business Center. Thank you for tuning in to Business Bites. I'm Tonya Fentress. Until next time, thank you again, Julius.
Thank you.